Somebody cop, 4-hour work week, page 75. Rolling right along, man. This is cool. I love this shit. The 9 to 5 illusion and Parkinson's law. Okay, we heard like Occam's razor. We've heard Pareto principle. Now we're learning about Parkinson's law. That's it. Class. I saw a bank that said 24-hour banking, but I don't have that much time. Gig. Stephen Wright, comedian. I love Stephen Wright. Remember that dude? He's not that big right now that I know of, but he was a thing, I don't know, 10 years ago. And he's like this fucking depressed dude who just, one of his jokes that I liked a lot, that was funny, was he said, you know how you feel when you're leaning back on a chair until you're just about to fall over? I feel like that all the time. And that's the way he delivers. He does this deadpan, stoic delivery. That's his thing. Sam Kinison would shout, and he would do this monotone, sad, depressed, whatever. But his shit was funny. I liked his material. So I don't have that much time. 24-hour banking, whatever. Yeah, that's not his best stuff. If you Google or YouTube Stephen Wright, he has some funny stuff. If you're an employee, spending time on nonsense is, to some extent, not your fault. There is often no incentive to use time well unless you are paid on commission. The world has agreed to shuffle papers between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., and since you're trapped in the office for that period of servitude, slavery, he's right. In a sense, it's slavery. I get it. You are compelled to create activities to fill that time. Time is wasted because there is so much time available. Yeah, you're basically trying to chew up. I don't know about you, but when I worked in the cubicle jungle, for real, there were days, many days, when I would just look up at the clock at the wall. 2:30, fuck, I got another, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Sometimes you get off 5:30, sometimes you get off 5, whatever. And then just get back and you do some more work and you look up again and you're like, fuck, 3:15. It's still basically 2 hours shit, and time just drags on. And that's all you're doing is looking at the clock and looking at when can I get the fuck out of here and go home and live my life, But I was trading hours for dollars like so many of us do, I was 13 years. 13 years I traded hours for dollars. So, yeah, for real. I remember. Wasted 13 years of my life doing that shit. The world has agreed to shuffle papers, 9 days since you're trapped. They're compelled to create activities to fill that time. Time is wasted because there is so much time available. It's understandable. Now that you have the new goal of negotiating a remote work arrangement instead of just collecting a paycheck, it's time to revisit the status quo and become effective. The best employees have the most leverage. All right, so working from home, thanks to COVID, right, lockdowns is actually a thing now. It's like your employer prefers you work from home now, probably. So this is easier now than it's ever been. When I was in IT in the 90s, they wanted you there. They were paying for your time and they wanted your time. The manager wanted to walk around the cubicles and look over your shoulder and see where you're at and have stupid meetings in the meeting room. Sometimes they bring bagels and donuts, which would make it cool. But, most of the time you're just sitting there slaving away in your little fucking cubicle, but they wanted you there. Remote work arrangements were not a thing in the 90s. Could I have pulled it off? Maybe. More likely, if I had read this book early enough and listened to what it said and done it, I would have just worked the insane hours. I worked really hard and taken that money, 150 grand a year, and invested it in real estate, right? And had rentals to the point where my passive income was enough that I didn't have to do the cubicle jungle anymore. Instead, I bought doodads. I bought shit and nice car, big house, everything that was supposed to make me happy. I spent the 6 figures a year on instead of saving and investing and trying to get out. My goal wasn't to get out. I thought that I had reached my goal by making 6 figures, right? So I was comfortably numb, I call it. I was happy, fat, dumb, and happy, because I was living the lifestyle that 150K a year buys you. And I thought that was enough. And now I know it wasn't enough. I wanted more. I wanted freedom. I didn't want to trade hours for dollars. So now I know. It's a little bit late. I'm done with my working years now, but now I know. Negotiating remote work arrangement, including collecting a paycheck, it's time to revisit the status quo and become effective. The best employees have the most leverage. So he's like, become a super employee, get a ton of work done, and then you can negotiate better terms, being, do I really need to be in the office 8 hours a day? And like I said, more now than ever, the answer is probably no. Your boss is probably happy to let you work from home. For the entrepreneur, the wasteful use of time is a matter of bad habit and initiation. I am no exception. Most entrepreneurs were once employees and came from 9-to-5 culture. Thus, they adapt the same schedule whether or not they function at 9 a.m. or need 8 hours to generate their target income. This schedule is a collective social agreement and a dinosaur legacy of the results by volume approach. How is it possible that all the people in the world need exactly 8 hours to accomplish their work? Good point. He's calling out the social norm, the regular way we think. He's calling it out, saying that I call bullshit, and he's absolutely 1,000% right. It isn't. 9 to 5 is arbitrary. You don't need 8 hours per day to become a legitimate millionaire, let alone have the means to live like one. 8 hours per week is often excessive, but I don't expect all of you to believe me just yet. I know you probably feel as I did for a long time. There just aren't enough hours in the day. Yeah, he was working 18 hours a day on his brain quicken because he thought that's what it required. And he thought by putting in 18 hours, he'll make more money than putting in 8 hours. And he thought wrong. And he discovered that. He's smart enough to figure it out and share it with all of us. And we're lucky. Let's consider a few things we can probably agree on. Since we have 8 hours to fill, we fill 8 hours. If we had 15, we would fill 15. If we had an emergency and need to suddenly leave work in 2 hours but have pending deadlines, we miraculously complete those assignments in 2 hours. All right. Cut out the fluff, and you could probably narrow your 8-hour workday down to 1 or 2 hours. I agree. I could have. It is all related to a law that was introduced to me by Ed Shao in the spring of 2000. I had arrived to class nervous and unable to concentrate. The final paper, worth a full 25% of the semester's grade, was due in 24 hours. One of the options, and that which I had chosen, was to interview the top executives of a startup and provide an in-depth analysis of their business model. The corporate powers that be had decided last minute that I couldn't interview two key figures or use their information due to confidentiality issues and pre-IPO, initial public offering. They're about to go public and sell stock. Precautions. Game over. I approached Ed after class to deliver the bad news. Ed, I think I'm going to need an extension on the paper. I explained the situation. Ed smiled before he replied without so much as a hint of concern. I think you'll be okay. Entrepreneurs are those who make things happen, right? Good answer. 24 hours later and 1 minute before the deadline, as his assistant was locking the office, I handed in a 30-page final paper. It was based on a different company I had found, interviewed, and dissected with an intense all-nighter and enough caffeine to get an entire Olympic track team disqualified. It ended up being one of the best papers I've written in 4 years, and I received an A. So in 24 hours, he did what most people spend weeks on doing. He just did it all, once again, efficient, crammed it all into a short period of time. Why? Because he had to. So he was capable of that the whole time. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to burn yourself out. That's not sustainable. But for that one night, he got it done. Mission accomplished. The military part of me keeps going back to that, but that's what it's all about. You're given a mission in the military, and you do what it takes to accomplish it, whatever it fucking takes. And when you've got that mindset, you're going to accomplish a mission. You're not going to let anything, pain, discomfort, people lying to you, people betraying you, whatever the fuck happens, it doesn't matter. You still got the mission. You still got to accomplish a mission. In this case, his mission was getting a paper turned in. That was going to get him a decent grade. He got an A. Imagine that. Before I left the classroom the previous day, Ed had given me some parting advice. Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law dictates that a task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allotted for its completion. Okay, so that's what Parkinson's law is. I've heard that concept before about the amount of tasks you have expanding. If you say, I'm going to work for 8 hours, you will have 8 hours of tasks. I used to go and sit in the office of the real estate company, and there would be shit to do all day. And like I said, a lot of times I stayed till 10:30 at night, and I was working the majority of those hours. There was something to do, emails, phone calls, whatever, doing deals, because I was also flipping. I mean, yes, the work absolutely expanded. I didn't know that was called Parkinson's law, but the work expands to the time allotted, absolutely the time that you give it, the time you set aside, the time you schedule, right? To swell in time, it's the magic of the imminent deadline. If I give you 24 hours to complete a project, the time pressure forces you to focus on execution. You have no choice but to do only the bare essentials. If I give you a week to complete the same task, it's 6 days of making a mountain out of a molehill. If I give you 2 months, God forbid, it becomes a mental monster. The end product of the shorter deadline is almost inevitably of equal or higher quality due to greater focus. He cut out all the fluff. He had no chance. He had 24 hours to produce. That forced him to get rid of all the fluff. And remember how he said he was sweating and he was nervous and he's worried about the paper? He spent more time fucking worrying about it than he did writing it when he actually wrote it. Imagine that. Do you ever do that? Sure you do. You spend more time worrying about the damn thing than just fucking doing it. Truth. Hashtag truth. This presents a very curious phenomenon. There are 2 synergistic approaches for increasing productivity that are inversions of each other, the opposite of each other. Limit tasks to the important to shorten work time, 80-20. Shorten work time to limit tasks to the important, Parkinson's law. Okay, so he's been giving us 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, and we've seen how powerful that is and how much fluff that can eliminate and cut out. And now he's saying another way to force you to use the 80-20 is give yourself a deadline. Say, okay, the 4-hour work week. If I have to get everything that I get done now in 40 or more hours in 4 hours, what's that look like? What do I need to do to produce the majority of my results? Maybe not 100%, but 90% or more in 4 hours. How do I do that? What's that look like? And once again, he'll give you more techniques in this book. Like he's already, the rules for change we went over were fucking gold. There'll be more like that, but start thinking that way. Start thinking, if I only had 4 hours to do all this work, how would I get it done? And you'll find that some of the work doesn't get done. Then you ask that critical 80-20. Well, the work that I'm eliminating, emails, phone calls, were they necessary? Did they generate the majority of my income? And you'll find a lot of that. The answer is no. The best solution is to use both together. Identify the few critical tasks that contribute most to income and schedule them with very short and clear deadlines. Make it less time. Make it, that's a goal. A goal of yours is to work 4 hours a week, 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever your initial goal is. And that's the time you give it. It's a short period of time. You give yourself 10 hours to get everything done, and you will get everything important that generates the most income done in the 10 hours. If you haven't identified the mission critical tasks, there you go. I don't think he's ever been in the military, but yeah, mission critical, mission accomplished. Tasks and set aggressive start and end times for their completion. The unimportant becomes the important. Even if you know what's critical, without deadlines that create focus and self-pressure, right? Pressure on yourself to perform with the deadline, because you don't want to miss a deadline, especially one you set yourself, not your boss's deadline, but your deadline. The minor tasks forced upon you or invented in the case of the entrepreneur will swell to consume time until another bit of minutiae jumps in to replace it, leaving you at the end of the day with nothing accomplished, nothing worthwhile towards your goals or your income. How else could dropping off a package at UPS, setting a few appointments, and checking email consume an entire 9 to 5 days? Yeah, people have done that. Don't feel bad. I spent months jumping from one interruption to the next, feeling run by my business instead of the other way around. That's fucking huge. I'm going to end it there. I'm sure we're at 15 minutes, never mind 10 minutes. A lot of information today. I made up for the 5-minute one yesterday, right? There you go. There's your 10 minutes a day. 5 yesterday, 15 today, but good stuff, guys. I mean, I love reading this guy because the way his mind works, it just really gives you a new perspective on things and helps you change your business, 180 degrees, which it needs to. Because right now, if you just do what you've always done, that business is going to eat you up. You will be trading time for dollars even with your own business. And by looking at things the way we talked about today, now you understand that you run the business doesn't run you. You're in control. And that's huge. That right there is just, if you get nothing else out of this book, you just have to understand that you run the business. The business is your bitch, and you're going to make it follow your rules. Because way too often, I've been at the other end. I've been an employee of my own business, going back to the pizza place in 2001 when I quit IT and I started a pizza place in St. Johns County. I didn't start, I bought an existing pizza place, took it over, and that pizza place made me its bitch. Once again, I wish I knew then what I know now. It would have been the other way around. But no, I was at the beck and call of the pizza place. The pizza place ran me, owned me, used me. I didn't own it, use it, run it. It ran me. I was sitting there making pizzas on a fucking Friday night, sweating my ass off, standing on my feet, exhausted, for 30 grand a year. That's fucking ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing I've ever done. Fast forward 15 years. I'm buying houses on the phone, making phone calls, having dumpsters delivered, having crews go over, fix the house up, and then I put it on. I sent somebody out to take pictures and put a lockbox on it and put a sign in the yard. I put it on the MLS. I sell it. I make 60 grand, which is better. Which would you rather do, right? Run a business remotely from an air-conditioned office and write checks and make 60 grand in a deal, 2-3 months, right? Flip time, or work your ass off for a year for 30 grand and be fucking exhausted at the end of the night and sweaty and trying to make 100 pizzas on a Friday night or a Saturday night, sell them for $6 for a large pepperoni, whatever, $10. I mean, it sucked. I was a business owner, but I was fucking miserable and I was exhausted and I was far from being a millionaire. Now the 60 grand for a flip isn't going to make you a millionaire either, but I think we all prefer the second version of Greg, the 2016, 17, 18 version of Greg, not the 2001 version of Greg, working his ass off in a little mom and pop pizza shop he owned. But once again, which do you want to do, A or B? Easy fucking choice. So that's it for today. Good stuff. Love me some Timmy. Getting a lot from the book. Hope you guys are too. And more importantly, I hope you're applying this stuff to your business. And your business could be yourself. You could be an entrepreneur, flipper, wholesaler, real estate, whatever, stock market, crypto, whatever you're into. This is universal things that make you more efficient at what you do.